Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we're going to look today at an absolute farce, a whitewash, a hiding of facts, and a clearance of all those who should be held responsible. Awful things happened. Nobody is held accountable. Nobody loses their jobs. Thousands of lives have been ruined. And why? For the sake of racial harmony. This is an appalling situation. This happened in one city, but it wasn't limited to one city. This has happened in many cities. But the whitewash, if that's the word, concerns the investigation into one city. In total, it happened and affected somewhere in the region of at least 15,000 children. And nobody is to blame. Let's look at this awful piece. It's in Breitbart. You probably won't find it in a lot of mainstream media because they really don't want to talk about it because of how awful it is and who ultimately will be blamed. Now, this review was in Rotherham, but it happened everywhere else. It happened in Oxford, Halifax, Telford, Birmingham, you name it. You name any area with a very high population of a certain group, and this happened. But because it was a certain group, it was covered up. It was hidden. It was even aided by the police. And where the police were handing victims back to those who were abusing them for the sake of not causing a problem. This is truly awful, and they've just spent a long time investigating it, a lot of money investigating it, and the conclusion they've come up with is nobody's going to lose their job. Look away, nothing happened here. Move along. It's disgusting and it's wrong, and we need to hold people responsible, not just those involved, not just the ones covered up by this report, but the people who've done this report are now conniving to cover it up. So no accountability. Rotherham G Gang review ends with 0 police officers punished. An 8-year, £6 million investigation into the Rotherham gang scandal has been accused of providing 0 accountability after no officers whatsoever were held responsible for the numerous failings during a time in which over 1,400 girls that we know about were SA'd in a northern English city. One city out of many. On Wednesday, the Independent Office for Police Conduct, a body that is no longer fit for purpose and is undoubtedly corrupt and filled with people of spineless, cowardly nature who dare not speak up and tell the truth, published what it described as an uncomfortable to read report on the police response to child SA carried out by mostly Pakistani Muslim G gangs between 1997 and 2013 in Rotherham, with the full knowledge and connivance and assistance of the police force. The latest report from the IOPC said they had carried out 91 investigations into the South Yorkshire Police, which was subject to 265 separate allegations made by 51 individual complainants levied by 44 survivors of SA, 3 family members and 4 third parties. A total of 47 officers were investigated by the police watchdog, which found 8 had cases to answer for misconduct and 6 for gross misconduct. Yet, Despite these findings, the report mirrored previous police investigations that none of the officers will face losing their job, pension, or face for criminal charges. The most severe sanction for any officer involved was a written warning. We are talking of gross SA of children. The R word. They were handed around person to person, man to man, in a racist gang. They targeted, this was one race, Pakistani Muslims, and they targeted specifically white girls, white children. This is undoubtedly a racist crime as well as an appalling SA crime. No police officer was charged, lost his job, his pension or his standing, and of all of those nearly 1,500 girls in one city, one written warning. One. The report found that officers in the South Yorkshire Police were not fully aware, lies, or able to deal with child SA, lies, or exploitation offences, lies, showing insufficient empathy towards survivors, that's true, who were vulnerable children and young people. By young people, they mean children, because they were under 18 years of age and therefore children. The South Yorkshire Police was shown to have viewed children as consenting, impossible, to their SA, impossible, lies, with one officer telling the mother of an abused child that it had become a fashion accessory for girls in Rotherham to have an older Asian boyfriend and that she would grow out of it. That officer needs to be prosecuted and that fashion accessory needs to do 30 years. According to the review, many officers laid the blame on the young girls, their victim-blaming children, for being odd, including a former detective sergeant who told the IOPC that some of the victims were worldly wise and were not meek and mild victims. So when that 10-year-old child is being gang-ard, it's the child's fault for being worldly wise. Great one, South Yorkshire Police. Great one. The complacency was so rampant that some officers even failed to act when they personally witnessed young girls in an intimate situation with older men, including an instance in which the young girl was involved in an act with a perpetrator whilst being watched by a policeman. One father was told by a police officer investigating the R of his 15-year-old daughter in a local park that the SA would teach the child a lesson. This was a police officer saying that child R would teach the child a lesson. One written warning. I'm coming up because in my head I'm about to explode. I'm going to go away and I will come back and I will do my rounding up afterwards. In what world do we live where the R of children is not only seen as acceptable but is encouraged by policemen in order to teach children a lesson? And then you have the police's own investigation that basically says, yeah, it's okay because nobody's losing their job and thankfully nobody's losing their pension. But not to worry, we have given one officer a written warning. South Yorkshire Police needs to be disbanded. Every single policeman in South Yorkshire Police needs to be fired immediately. Their pensions erased, then every single one of them prosecuted for child R, and to get 30 years in prison for child R. Every person who committed it needs to have 30 years. Or better still, they need to be released into the community and have a word tattooed on their forehead. These people are scum. And for a police force to do this and then to cover it up. Why are we paying our taxes? Why is the Home Secretary, who's ultimately responsible for this, not firing every single member of South Yorkshire Police? People, I ask you, the viewers, what would you do if you found your 13-year-old daughter in a park being hard and said to the policeman who's watching it, why aren't you arresting him? The police are not your friend. If I see a policeman getting beaten up in the street, I will walk away because they are scum. This is what police do. Police connive in the R of children. They are below contempt and deserve nothing. Now the police force needs to sort itself out. It needs to fire. It needs, I think, everyone, including the chief constable, down. Closed, gone, out. Pensions wiped. And a lot of prison sentences. And only then will we maybe start seeing the police as anything other than disgusting, perverted, corrupt enemies of the people. I'm stopping now. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Ring the bell for future notifications. Leave a like, leave a comment. God, leave a comment on this one. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, protect your children, never trust the police, and goodbye.